Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the time has finally arrived to cap off Season 2 here in the Challenge Series. The Challenge Series Grand Championship has arrived, and it is going to be a 6-race championship to decide Season 2 champion. That sounds so redundant. But, you know, big events, big preparations, so for the, I think, third time this season, I'm not alone in the recording booth for once.
It is I, Thrasher, one of the 3 admins.
One of the other 2, yeah. For obvious reasons, Snitchery's not here. That is because they do not exist.
Well, she's just busy with all the paperwork and complaining about us not doing it, so...
Yeah, that's about all she's good for. Sometimes. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be a little lax on the episode timing. I'm pretty convinced it's gonna be split in 2, so I'm not even worried about it. But I mean, there's not a whole lot else to cover because everything else can just be kind of explained or given details on as the championship goes along. We got a long one ahead of us here, so let us head into round 1 of this championship. And with that green light, the Challenge Series Grand Championship is officially underway. Round 1 takes us to the Deep Forest Race Circuit. That's the actual name, but whatever. As 4-wheel drive advantage puts Chika Takami, our pole sitter, since she won the first race of last week, at an early advantage. We are on board with another 4-wheel drive car, Melissa Neptune's basically R33 LM. That's what it's loosely based off of, at least.
Let me tell you what, it was scary having her right behind me because it felt like there was something kind of intense about her that particular day.
Well, no. She's never intense, really. That's more noir.
Right. Well, I mean, it just kind of felt like she had a kind of energy about her that would have influenced her performance that particular day. I don't know, maybe I'm just imagining things. But I got a pretty good view of the rear of that R33 for about a lap or so.
Yeah, maybe she'll probably call it main character privilege. There's almost 3 wide up there. Lord knows these 2 know each other very well. Followed by one of the longest running drivers here, and already being usurped by the other R33 driver. Neptune's already made her way through 2/3 of the field on just the first lap of racing. So 4-wheel drive advantage as Francesca maybe take a peek at the Porsche, but think better of that plan.
These 2 are rivals. Like, this is probably going to be quite the close battle between those 2.
Yeah, I know they have history. I've witnessed it occasionally.
Yep.
I think
hard to when you're keeping tabs on like well over 200 people.
Well, I mean, I was there firsthand. I've been wrecked by Stephanie before.
Right.
I think half this field's been run into by a Porsche at some point.
Sometimes it's a red one, sometimes it's a yellow one. Who knows?
It's been a blue one, or a green one, too.
Yeah, it kind of came unglued there for a half second.
I think she knows what she's doing.
Maybe a little, yeah, you know. It's just throw at the back end a little bit. It's a little crazy to look at.
I think we just saw some contact there between Neptune and Akatsumi, who kind of squeezed Neptune up against the inside wall of the tunnel. And Stephanie's getting hungry. She goes down the inside of the Impreza. And a slight contact, but that really doesn't mean much. Porsche gets the better drive off, even better than a 4-wheel drive car. And Stephanie puts an obstacle between her and that red-headed witch, as I've heard her call her once.
Yep.
Melissa takes Neptune takes 2 cars around the outside of the final turn. 4-wheel drive traction playing a small help in that, to say the least. And Chica's just dropping like a rock. Francesca down the inside. That's a crazy double overtake.
Not gonna hold on to it for long though.
Yeah, no, 4-wheel drive exit, go Burr. Speaking of going Burr, the lead two, the two American cars, not American, no, one American driver. They kind of had a decent margin, but Stephanie's eating that up right now.
As is Miss Main Character Syndrome. Oof.
Yeah. That's not something you normally see from an R33, so she must be really pushing that car.
Yeah, she's doing her Kazuyoshi Hoshino impression of being able to just drift a Skyline GTR with the Atezza four-wheel drive system.
GTSTs, who needs those?
Yeah.
This battle is shaping up to be a classic case of cornering versus power. Two of the most powerful cars on the championship lineup versus two of the most grippy ones. A track like this, though, I think they give the advantage to the horsepower.
Yeah, the revamp that this track has had over the years definitely favors the high horsepower, high top speed type people more over the ones that favor cornering and grip.
And the team continues to push that car even an inch over its limits, breaking traction again out of T1. Pretty like parade-like here. That's the word I was looking for. Although Stephanie's probably feeling the pressure. Yeah, definitely feeling the pressure now. I think Neptune actually had to hit the brakes to avoid contact. Stephanie defends. Neptune doesn't care. But possibly a crossover move put on there. Four-wheel drive exit's gonna enable that one pretty easily. And third goes Neptune into third place.
She's got just about one more lap to go to catch up a couple of cars that are well over 50 years old by this point.
The newest car out of the top 5 runners is still older than me. Well, that's quite a huge run from the last turn. Neptune just embarrasses Axel down the front stretch. All that horsepower means nothing, Axel, if you ain't got the grip to use it.
For true. What I want to know is her game plan for passing up Barbara up here.
Probably just gonna have to do the same thing she just did to Axel. Just gotta use the cornering, get a really good exit from a turn with four-wheel drive advantages, and just hope that the momentum outweighs the, I think, 100-something horsepower deficit between her car and that Corvette. Oh my god, she's the one breaking traction. She's the one who's got four-wheel drive. I don't really know how you're even doing that, Neptune. It's kind of working, I suppose.
And with one more straight to go, I mean, this is... She's kind of running out of time there to pass up Barbara.
And nowhere near close enough in the braking zone. Let's see where, like, a literal maniac.
Yep. Oh.
Sideways again. We've seen her make passes on the final turn, though, so...
Yep,
Barbara's gonna have to...
corner. Is she gonna cinch it out?
Barbara's gonna have to really be kind of brave. She kind of is, and... Oh, this is gonna be a drag race.
Right at the line.
Oh my word, about a tenth in it. Neptune has stolen the gold from the car. That's literally gold.
Yeah. Oh well,
And
tough luck, Barbara.
You're not the main character in this RPG, unfortunately. And
My boy
Axel remains on the
did
podium.
Yeah, my boy Axel did manage to score podium.
And you got 10th. I imagine you were probably caught up in a lot of traffic down there, if I had to guess.
It was kind of sticky when you're starting in the middle, because you got people behind you, you got people in front of you. Sometimes you get boxed in a little too much.
At least you avoided getting boxed off the track, taking damage, because there's definitely a few cars down here, like my amazing teammate, for example, who ends up in last place.
maybe as a little bit of karma for trying to take out a certain someone else that we know.
Yeah, and kind of almost wonder how that driver would have done if they were in that 20th spot instead of her. Probably not finishing 20th, I would have to guess. But speculation aside, head on now to round 2 of the championship. And round 2 of the championship is away. From one fantasy track to the next, Trial Mountain hosts round 2. We're on board with John Large and his GGTC-inspired Amuse 380R. Turn 1, 2, and 3 here is always an absolute clusterfuck.
And in the span of about 20 seconds, he's made up literally half the field. That wasn't really nice to see in my rearview mirror, if I'm being perfectly honest.
He just had the power star from Mario Kart, just ignored the ramifications of the first sector, and was just like, alright, 7th place, great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's frustrating to see as a competitor, but very nice to see as a commentator.
While the first race does always have the generated grid based on the results from the championship, or like the qualifying rounds, every race thereafter is completely randomized grid. So, person who's definitely not complaining is Fernando Fedonzi, who's already opened up probably a decent 2-second lead over Neptune. And Neptune's under a lot of threat. She had all the pace in the world at a Deep Forest, but right now she's kind of looking like a side character, if you will.
The hero of another story.
She got taken by both Akatsumi and Francesca in one turn. And John Large is looking like he might be next. Despite being rear-wheel...
Go for it.
Despite being rear-wheel drive, John Large assures me that his car almost has four-wheel drive-like traction out of turns, and I think it just proved itself there. He just embarrassed that R33 at the exit. That is a lot of cars pitting. Turn 1, 2, and 3 did their magic. And I'm pretty sure the cars that don't have damage is a shorter list. Yeah, half the field,
yeah,
more than.
Oh goodness, yeah, that's... It's frustrating, but unfortunately it's the reality of some of these races.
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3, everybody has a very different way of taking this section. As you can see, Large is basically putting the moves on the Testarossa around the outside. It's almost like it's the real Super GT car right there with that kind of grip. And the thing is, with opening incidents like that, there's nothing you can really blame it on. It's just the nature of lap 1 when you have 20 cars going into a medium speed set of corners. I'm sure, you could sit there and point your finger at whoever ran into the back of you, but in reality, they probably got pushed into you by somebody behind them.
If only I can only imagine the kind of carnage we'd have if we were able to host this at a track like Monaco, but jury's still out on that after 2 years of pursuing a potential contract with them.
That was more on you. I'm more so trying to get something set up for maybe New York or like Tokyo, like another street circuit somewhere. Just I don't know. Monaco's not really my thing. Too ritzy. John Large is making absolute light work of this field right now. Already up to 2nd place. This is something he considers a home track for him, being Canadian and this track being pretty close to the border. Certainly a lot closer than everything else on the calendar. So I imagine he's probably spent a decent amount of time running test laps here for this. Down the inside, maybe it's half-baked, and Fernando defends well enough into the double hairpin complex for the moment. But yeah, that is an unending onslaught. I think it's just a matter of time for the Maserati driver before he has to concede that. Drag race to T1 though, the Maserati with a slight horsepower advantage. Around the outside, yeah, Fernando just psyched himself out there. John Large has all the confidence in the world in this thing.
Well, we'll see by the end if he winds up taking a very large lead.
It's a large chance. Maybe Katsumi has
Maybe
a bit
kind
of
of sucking up,
sideways.
maybe a little bit, yeah.
Maybe she's pushing her Z8 there, possibly. And Francesca is sort of entering the chat as well. She's not too far off.
She just opened up the room, but tapped out right now.
Oh!
Speaking of tabbing out, she quickly looked at her drift tab.
Top speed difference between these two. John's car definitely sacrifices top speed, but for the amount of traction it seems to have, I would say it's worth it. This track is probably about as good as Deep Forest is as far as like the power versus cornering like benefits. But there are still definitely high-speed turns that this 380 RS is just simply eating for breakfast. I'm still quite surprised by Akatsumi's performance early on in this championship, since she hasn't really had much attendance throughout most of the season. She just kind of laid back for a while, maybe, I guess probably preserved her strength, as it were, for the Grand Championship, and she's putting on a performance that belies her status in the Challenge Series. A little sideways, but fast.
That's kind of something you're going to run into with as many drivers as we have registered, because unfortunately, like, socially as creatures, we can only really kind of keep tabs on about 150 people, so whenever we meet somebody that kind of adds above that, if they're out of sight, they're pretty much out of mind. But she's definitely making sure that she's not out of sight, out of mind for this race at least.
She is not going quietly this week, as we also witnessed an overtake with Kotori putting a bit of racecraft to work, basically psyching Neptune out and taking 6th place from her. Alba took her lunch money while she was at it, but you know how that goes. Final big straightaway, and I don't think Katsumi is really close enough to even be concerning large at this point. Yeah, sure, like a 7-8 mile an hour advantage down the straightaway, but the second we hit that braking zone, the 380 RS is just gonna embarrass both these cars. Fernando takes a little peek, but he can't quite manufacture a lane to put his car into. We were in contact almost, but no damage. Nothing would matter either way.
I will say, Fernando and Akatsumi kind of pushing each other is probably like the main reason why John Large isn't 100% running away with this. I mean, he's definitely been dominant in the last half of this race, but I was expecting those other two to be literally just miles behind, but no, they're pretty much kind of breathing down his neck a little bit.
But they have run out of time, as across the start-finish stripe, John Large takes a very large victory. That just didn't work. At Trial Mountain, Akatsumi and Fernando Fedonzi complete the podium. Francesca with the consistency bonus, though. She got a top 5 in Deep Forest, and then a top 4 finish here. So I believe that would give her the points lead, as she's the only driver to get multiple top 5s. Neptune went from 1st to 7th in her second race. Barbara with a mere 10th, and pretty much everybody else that's worth mentioning was certainly caught up in the opening lap madness, since that involved 11 different cars. And of course Uni was one of them, because, well, she's about as likely to avoid a crash as I am to, like, eat vegetables. So she sees a pileup as an invitation rather than a hazard, probably. Yeah, with that said, on to the third race. Well, probably the final one of the first half of the episode. Depends on how the episode timer shakes out. But I don't think we're getting this within an hour. I am going to be dead honest. The midway race of the championship heads to Grand Valley Highway, the third fantasy track in a row, and we head to turn 1 on board with Carrie Vert in her FC RX-7, which I imagine probably won't have even half the grip of that 380 RS, probably because she likes a little bit of sideways action in her car. It's an odd call.
Yeah, that design does look familiar. I do think I remember seeing a D1 GP car with that with a very similar looking livery to it.
It's not much of a livery at all, just silver with a bunch of light green decals.
Still works.
I saw some contact there. A bit uncharacteristic as we saw Francesca miss her braking point get into the back of Neptune. There was also a yellow flag there. I'm not really sure for what though. Alright, well here's a nice wide shot. This should... never mind. Great. Okay. Whoa, okay.
Oh.
Well, if she wasn't getting karma enough, that'll make it even worse. Too wide with Pepper Mills and just, too eager on the throttle and overcorrects back into the wall right in front of traffic. Fernando gets absolutely destroyed by that as well.
He's not going to be very happy about that.
I mean, it is a driving mistake at the end of the day. You can't be that angry, but also you can be angry.
You can be angry at the circumstances. He's probably recognizing that, I'm pretty sure he'd recognize that, yeah, she didn't do that on purpose, but she probably should be able to clean up her lines maybe a little bit more in her throttle control.
Also, probably word of mouth's gotten around that she's the loose cannon. Lord knows, she's sideways again. I don't know if you saw that at the middle of the screen. I guess at this point, maybe it's the damage on setting her car, but who's to say?
I feel like that's a probably pretty solid theory there.
As Vert takes Chica Takami around the outside of the tunnel corner and sneaks through the little chicane here into the top half of the field. Not quite the same rapid progress that we've seen from the last 2 races, though. As we enter the tunnel, Donnie Anderson, I think, lets Vert go as he has sustained damage of his own, as have a few other cars from Sarah's brilliant driving. Or Sarah Uni, I should say. So that makes that 7th now for the RX-7 driver. It is a 3-car train for 2nd place. Meanwhile, Axel Valentine is having the time of his life. Home track advantage, a solid 3 or 4 second lead. He's eating good in the neighborhood right now. As Hikari, Pepper Mills, and previous races winner Sean Large are trying to keep with him, but man, it ain't working. This would also be like a half home track advantage for you as well, since you don't. Your home track may be Laguna Seca, but I'm sure you've run some laps here too, just by, association with the Valentines.
Yeah, I mean, Black Stallion Motorsports' home base is in Monterey, California, right at the track, so we definitely take some coastal runs between our team also. So yeah, we're pretty decently familiar with this stretch of the Pacific Coast Highway.
I believe Bradley Hunter wouldn't live too far from here either. He's based in Nevada, so he probably runs here once in a while. As up ahead we see John Large. He's done waiting. He's going to go down the inside of the NSX of Pepper Mills. And that might not work for him. He's going to have the inside lane here, but it's a tight squeeze to get anywhere. Although Pepper Mills ran a bit wide, trying to give way to the 380 RS, and that move will be completed. I think Vert just slightly embarrassed you heading towards the tunnel there.
I mean, she had a better line through that one, what can I say?
I think she was actually alongside you before that, and then I think you probably were just like, this isn't even worth fighting, not into these corners.
Yeah.
Understeers into turn 1A, but still manages to get and stay alongside the Nova driver. They're still too wide, though. I imagine this is probably something for you to see, because you were just like, okay, when is the other shoe gonna drop? Are they gonna mess this up? No, they actually do not. It almost gives you an opportunity, but Bradley kind of closes the door on your face.
Yeah. Didn't want to think it was a brake check, but, you know. I don't think he's the kind of dude to do that.
Not out of malice. Anyway. Meanwhile, further ahead, John Large has overtaken Hikaru Taniguchi in the other Super GT reference, and Axel Valentine, he's lost his mojo. He doesn't quite have the same massive lead he once did. Possibly as a result of a mistake, or maybe it's just because John Large has sort of dragged the other two up to him with his own pace. Hard to be sure.
I mean, it could be either or, but, you know, as long as Axel kind of keeps his cool and just make sure he stays consistent, I feel like he's got a pretty good chance of holding on to this lead, even if things kind of look dire at the moment.
Yeah, we had the guy that won the race and took the lead on lap 2 following him, but, I mean, he doesn't live here. Axel does, so... Baru goes into 4th place down the inside at the final corner, which is not an easy task to trust the car to do that, and a huge run on Taniguchi. She's gonna basically get 2 for the price of 1 just there. Momentum-based driving.
Very impressive overtake.
Overtakes. And Pepper Mills is like, you know what, I got that slipstream, I'm gonna get your 2. Surprise. In the background, a Chevy battle has begun as Barbara has overtaken both you and Bradley Hunter.
Me, famously a Chevy driver.
Well, because it was the Corvette and the Nova.
Yeah, the Corvette and the Nova, yeah.
Two Chevrolets and then a Ford just kind of
Blue
spectating. And an RX-8. Large still riding Axel's coattails, but he doesn't seem fierce to try and make any passes stick just yet. He might just be waiting for the last minute. That is a strategy I've seen in some races.
For sure. There is also the thing of, it's one thing to catch up to somebody, and it's quite another to pass them.
Especially when you consider the fact that the Pantera has a lot more power.
That Ford V8 on that thing's pretty tuned up, pretty souped up. A lot of us at the Black Stallion Motorsports garage made sure of that.
Barbara continues her own progress down the inside of Taniguchi. Now it's going to be the wrong lane though, but she hangs it there, and we saw that same move work for John Large earlier against Pepper Mills, and Barbara is going to emulate that. And based on her current warpath, we might be soon seeing a battle of the doctors here. As Barbara is catching up to Pepper pretty quickly with that horsepower difference in hand. And as we can very clearly see here, there's not going to be much of a battle at all, I don't think. Nope. Now Pepper's going to try and stay there as we start the final lap of the race. It is going to be better cornering for the NSX, but Barbara just has the horsepower and the nerve, most importantly, to kind of sort of offset that through the S's. Oh my word! What a save! That's not easy to save in a mid-engine car or any car.
Absolutely not. Especially not those NSXs. Those can bite you with no warning whatsoever. But thankfully, with her ability to control that thing, like she saved it, that could have been very expensive.
There was actually contact there.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure who to blame for that. I don't really know if Barbara had a lane or not. No. Pepper just kind of turned out of it, and turning out of it was the worst mistake she could have made.
Yeah, that's why she came unglued.
But I suppose at the same time,
she saves it.
Yeah, I suppose at the same time, the fact that she did intentionally turn out of it meant that she was prepared to recover afterwards, at the very least. We come to the twilight phase of this race here. Axel is still standing his ground. John Large, it still doesn't really seem like he's put up a whole lot of resistance, but it may just be that Large just came off the back of a victory, and he's probably just trying to bank solid points. Second place, you know, one in the hand is worth two in the bush type of thing. He's got second place here. If he hangs on to it, he could take the lead, or he could mess it up and send both of them back to 15th.
True. And that's just something you don't want. Very Alain Prost way of thinking.
Except I don't think John Lard is going to intentionally wreck his teammate for a championship.
Yeah, I would hope so. I would hope that wouldn't be the case.
He's got to run here. It just doesn't matter. Even with the extra downforce on the back of that 380R, Pantera's just got just enough power.
Yeah, if it ain't happening now, it's not gonna happen at all.
Yeah, no, not when the Pantera is finally allowed to open up stretch its legs and grab the victory here from Grand Valley Highway, a home circuit victory for Axel and for Black Stallion Motorsports. Burt gets onto the podium, but just didn't have the pace to stay with these two, like, at all. And Barber trudges to 4th place after, I believe, starting pretty close to the back of the grid. So...
Yeah. Very much props to both Vert and Barbara for starting back as far as they were and then getting into 3rd and 4th. That's not an easy feat to do, even though we see it just about every week here, but that still doesn't mean it's easy.
You know, that's why we put the camera on them. Because it's not something you'd see in just any old motorsport. And I think that's just sort of the X factor that a lot of our drivers just tend to produce amongst themselves, of just, you know, for some reason a lot of the Challenge Series drivers just feel faster when they know the camera's looking at them, because, you know, you start in last, and sometimes that can be a mental thing of, okay, well, there's nowhere to go but up from here. And that kind of puts you in a certain level of ease, because, like, you know, it couldn't possibly get worse other than crashing.
Right. Of course.
I've certainly been there a few times from some of my own similar victories.
Right.
But, monologuing complete. We shall head into the second half of the championship. For us, it'll be a minute later, but it might be a part 2 for the viewers at home. We'll just have to wait and see, I suppose. And with that green light, the Challenge Series Grand Championship is officially underway.
Actually, nice lights this time.
Yeah, it's gotten better since, like, one of the more recent updates. Only had 1 or 2 mishaps. The first round of this championship takes us to Deep Forest Raceway.
Riker, we need to stop.
Why?
Have a look at Fernando's. Fernando, the Maserati.
Ah, and
Good
the
thing I caught them, right?
Yeah, well, okay. Now watch, the lights are going to be bugged out on the second try.